Hey folks, Mike Shea here with Sly Flourish, slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish. And this is, I don't know, I think the fourth show that I'm doing, if you can call it that, the fourth stream of my game preparation for my Sunday D&D game. I hope you guys are able to join me. Love to chat about D&D. If you have any questions, I've got this time, better than previous times, I have a nice little chat window so I can see what's going on in chat, and I will have that up the entire time that I'm going through my game here. What I like to do is go through the checklist that I have gone through previously. This is the new and improved Lazy Dungeon Master checklist that is the core of the Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master book, a book I am working frantically on right now and will have out in the fall. For those of you who backed it on the Kickstarter, thank you very much. For those of you who had not, you will have the opportunity to pick it up in the fall. So the checklist has 8 components to it. You can see them over there on the left, mirrors. And I've already pre-filled a little bit of this with some stuff from my previous game. So I'm running Tomb of Annihilation. They have been exploring Chult. They discovered last session that they have pirates, that they're worried about pirates. And that the pirates are in fact vampires. They've had a woman, I will add her to the NPCs, a female assassin vampire named the Devil. Should pirate go before assassin? Pirate assassin. She attacked them and they beat her up and turned her into... she transformed herself into a gas cloud and floated away back to Jalaka Bay. I think it's Jahaka Bay. I always get this name mixed up. Give me a sec just to make sure everything with this stream. I can't see what's actually happening on the Twitch stream, so just gonna go make sure this Twitch stream is actually streaming. I'm not watching wrestling. I don't know why wrestling was the first thing to come up. That is not really my interest. It is up, and there's 7 of you. Hello, 7 fine folks. I hope you're having fun. All right, I will kill that now. So we have our checklist. They're working their way towards the Jahaka anchorage. They know that the pirates are vampires, and or not all of them, but some of them are. And they want to stop the pirates. This is all, by the way, full of... hi, Jebriggs. Nice to see you. And Gondolar, and Tilda Wildy. Tilda Wilda? Tilda de Wilda. Hello. And Baron Thor. Nice to meet you. Thank you all for coming. So, this is all full of Tomb of Annihilation spoilers, but the idea that the vampires are pirates I stole from the James Wyatt Ixalan D&D hybrid product that he put out. It's a free book about Magic the Gathering, mixing Magic the Gathering with Dungeons & Dragons. And it had vampire conquistadors, and I thought that was awesome. So I wanted to steal that and add that to the pirates, because I thought just flat pirates are boring. So going through, and again, folks in chat, if you have any questions or any topics you want to talk about, feel free to bring them up. This is loose and free form. Although I do have a game in about an hour, and I have nothing. I've prepped nothing for it. Not really, just what happened last time. So where's the game going to start? Overlook. Our game is going to start with them on the Overlook, overlooking the bay, and they're going to see a large storm. I think as they arrive, a ship yeah, Barantor, I think that the vampires are actually interested in finding the Soul Grinder because they think it has benefits to them. You know, that if they can get a hold of the Soul Grinder and somehow channel its energy, you know, and we're going to add that. See, this is valuable. Thank you, sir. Is it the Soul Grinder? Munger. That is a good secret and clue. That's why they're here, right? The vampires. I should really have my spell checker on so I'm not embarrassing myself. I'm sure that's not how to spell harvesting. They're more interested in harvesting people than treasure. They have about 100 captured prisoners they're using as food. Prisoners are by default captured, so I'm going to be captured. You can kind of see, like, I'm jumping around a little bit. That's fine. You don't have to do everything in order. One need not do this at all if it doesn't work for them. So they see a ship arriving. I don't know which ship it will be or which captain it will be. So there are 3: Dragon, Fang, Emerald Eye, and Sturge. I am going to add a little bit of randomness, and I'm going to roll to see which ship is coming into the bay. And I rolled a 3, so that is the Emerald Eye is coming into the bay. Zarum al-Sariak. So what would the so Zarum is a Kalashite human bandit captain. He is a vampire. One of the things I'm thinking of adding is that they have been to the Shadowfell, these pirates, that they have been through gates to the Shadowfell, and they have some darklings that work for them that they brought from the Shadowfell. And maybe it was in the Shadowfell that they learned more about they probably have man, I was just reading about, hang on, I gotta grab my Volo's guide. Yes, hounds. So I finished this Friday. I relaxed and hung out on my couch and read the Volo's guide, and I had finished it. I read it all the way through. So the idea that they have Yeth hounds are kind of cool, right? They are given to the Fae, right? But I'm sure that they exist in the Shadowfell. If the Shadowfell's full of Fae. And the Darklings, they are in here too. Yeah, Darklings and Darkling Elders. They probably have. I don't know if they have a lot of Darkling Elders, but they probably have a handful of Darkling Elders that act as their sort of spies and assassins. And of course, lots of bandits. They probably have a couple of bandit captains. The Yeth-hounds probably guard the prisoner. Would Yeth-hounds guard the prisoners? Is that in there? They're hunting dogs. Not exactly guard dogs. So what do you guys think would be a good guards for the prisoners in this place? I definitely need some guardians. There's a lot of things to guard here. And these would be either things that vampires would have or things that the Shadowfell, that they would find in the Shadowfell. Shadowfellian critters. I'm up for suggestions. Nothing jumps right out at me. It's a problem when you read all this stuff. Too many things in your head. The characters, I think, are level 6. They're pretty. Yeah, I think they're level 6 now. Yeah, so some of this stuff is going to be, but they're a robust level 6. Like they didn't have any trouble. Oh, vampire spawn. There'll be a handful of those. And Al Sirac himself is a true vampire. Sure. Thersis, welcome. That's some general monsters, but I, definitely. So I got like bandits and bandit captains and stuff. What I'd like is like monstrous guards, or something more, something different than NPCs that makes sense as things that vampires would have. Vampire, pirate, Shadowfell, delvers would have. I can always go with the Yeth Hounds, and they can be guards as well as anything else. Yeah, undead would make sense, and I guess vampires can certainly make undead. I think they saw ghouls before. Ghouls aren't really good guards, though. You could have, like, Tomb Guardian things. I don't think there are any true Tomb Guardians. You could always have, like, a flesh golem that's, in fact, like a big skeletal Tomb Guardian or something. Giant bats. That'd be pretty great. Are there werebats? Yeah, so when they arrive, they see the big storm, and the Emerald Eye is arriving and just pulling into port. Undead wolves. That'd be pretty good. But that'd be awfully a lot like the Yeth Hounds. And the Yeth Hounds are kind of pretty cool. Helmed Horrors aren't bad. Yeah, maybe we'll throw Helmed Horrors in there. That can work. I don't know who makes Helmed Horrors. Let's go to D&D Beyond. Let's look up the background on Helmed Horrors. One thing that has changed very much in my approach. It's hard to talk and type at the same time. Helmed Horror Monster Manual. Here we go. Who makes these things? It doesn't say. Ooh, Helmed Horrors are tough too. They don't hit particularly hard. Yeah, Helmed Horrors will do. I'll put those in there for now. Let's think of something better. Yeah, they're. Yeah, the question is like, how did the vampires get them? Like these guys aren't particularly spellcastery types. So the fact that they could probably have acquired them in their travels, that's not. No one will question it. It's just kind of my thought. So they're overseeing the bay. So what scenes are going to take place? Really, the infiltration of the caves of Jehovah. So because they're vampire stuff, there's a couple things I'm adding in here. So we have these. If you look at the map, this is the map of Jehovah Bay. So they're going to be down here. Let me zoom out. So down to the south is where they're going to be overlooking, and they will be able to kind of peek into the cave and see the ship arriving. There'll be one ship that's further out in the bay, and looks like it's a couple hours away. One of the prisoners made them for the vampires in exchange for not being a true prisoner. One of the prisoners made them. Oh, yeah. So could somebody make the... could they be a wizard who made the animated? That's a bad idea. A wizard that... One of the prisoners is a wizard. So they'll see it from the south. They'll see a big palisade that's being guarded by bandits and stuff. There'll probably be some darklings out lurking in the woods here that they'll have to deal with. There's a watchtower up here, and I think below here is where the prisoners will be in this big ship. And then there's probably back here in these caves are where the coffins of the true vampires are kept. The Emerald Eye will be pulling in, so it'll be around here, and they'll be bringing prisoners and treasures. They'll kind of stick the treasures over here. This little alcove over here, I don't know what it's supposed to be, but that is where I'm going to have a shadow orb. We'll add this to the fantastic, the storm orb. So here, there are 3 mirrors. And 4 orbs, right? 1 orb that's in the chamber, that's the central orb, and then 1 chamber in each of the ships, and there's a mirror on each of the ships, and the central orb can sort of beam storm energy out to each of the ships, and then they can have these storms that are always overhead so that they never have to worry about the sun. The problem is the orbs are big, so they can't really move into the inland with them. So that's sort of a secret, right? We'll call it a shadow orb because they basically stole it from the Feywild. Or from the Shadowfell. So I think that makes sense. The reason why I'm doing this whole sort of complicated mirrors, this is sort of gamey, but I don't want them to have to worry about each ship. Like they'll spend the next 6 weeks trying to wreck each of the ships. But if they can destroy the 1 orb in this place, then all 3 ships now suddenly have sunlight over them, and the vampires who are on the ships will either die or flee. You know, they'll all like they'll demand that their crew sail the ships away so that they can get back wherever they go. So this essentially, if they destroy this orb, they solve the problems of the pirates. You know, is one of them. That makes this whole, because like, you know, we're, I don't know, 3 months in, not even 3 months in, a couple months into Tomb of Annihilation, and they're ready to head to Omu. So I don't want them to spend, you know, weeks and weeks and weeks dealing with pirates, especially when I'm adding all this complicated vampire stuff. So, yeah, so I think it's better if they gain control of the shadow orb. You know, that will, you know, that could have a big effect. And again, like, do they destroy it? Maybe they can grab this thing and control it somehow and threaten it, and somehow, you know, make a deal with the pirates. You know, I'm not gonna presuppose what they do in this whole situation, nor how they deal with this camp, right? When we think about the monsters that are here. There's probably, so how many pirates would typically be on a pirate ship? You know, 20 or so. So there's probably 30 bandits. There's probably, you know, 4 captains. There's probably, how many vampire spawn did they make? I guess the captains will be the vampire spawn, right? There's probably, you know, 5 of them. They're not captains, right? They're mad like commanders. They probably have 12 darklings and probably 3 elders. Helmed horrors. So they probably have 2 helmed horrors guarding the orb. Maybe they stole the helmed horrors along with the orb. That'd be fun. And how many Yeth Hounds? 3 Yeth Hounds, 1 for each captain. Yeth Hounds sound like they're kind of hard to come by. So probably not a lot of them. Yeah, I don't know. We might just do 1 Yeth Hound. But I think each of the captains probably has one. It'll be sort of like Game of Thrones, right? Every vampire captain has their own Yeth Hound that they picked up from the Shadowfell, and they'll have different, different looks. But the problem is there's one for each captain, then which one is guarding them? So it's probably 4 Yeth Hounds. And the guardian's like a Yeth Hound mother, like a matron. The level of the party is 5 or 6. If they're not 6, they should be. But I think 5 or 6. Yeah, I can't remember if I said they're 5th or 6th level. They should be 5th or 6th. Then if I can, I might level them up. I might have forgotten to level them up last time. You can see I'm jumping around quite a bit. So what are the scenes? They infiltrate the caves, meet the prisoners. They, deal with the pirates. Infiltrate the orb chamber, decide the fate of it. All right. And GTFO. So those are, again, loose list of scenes. So you saw like how fast it took me to come up with these scenes, right? I did not spend a lot of time in the scenes. And that's because I really don't know what's going to happen. They could go, wow, vampires and Yeth Hounds, and look at this place. You know what? This isn't our problem. We're just going to go back into the jungle and we're going to go head to Omu and try to deal with it there. They might decide that, right? So I don't want to prep too much. I have a feeling they're going here, so this isn't so bad. One interesting thing I wanted to talk about, I think it's a big difference. So when I had the great opportunity to talk to Mike Merles on my show, the DM Deep Dive, about 4 or 5 months ago, and he, in one of his biggest tips, he gave 2 tips that I think are really, really useful and powerful, and a different way of thinking about D&D than many of us, I think, are used to, certainly than I was used to, which is to think less tactically about the game. Think less tactically and more strategically. Just kind of loose, but it means like less worry about the specific details. And I also took from that sort of less emphasis on the designing around combat encounters. And then later he specifically said, think of your adventure regardless of combat, right? Like, what does it look like when you're not when you're not engaged in combat? And an example of that would be like if you're going to have a whole situation with a hag, the damage and the danger and the scary bits of the hag may have nothing to do with fighting her. It may have to do with all of the stuff that she set up. I actually think hags can be kind of difficult to run because they're not particularly high powered, particularly if they're not in a coven, but they're ageless. They've been around forever. And the idea that, you have these ageless, powerful, really evil monsters, well, how do they deal with a party? Well, they're going to torment the hell out of that party, and the party's never even going to see them. And the party's going to have to like hunt them down. And it could take a whole campaign to find one hag. And then, when they fight her, they might just kill her, right? She's not that powerful. But the fact that she's got all this manipulation of stuff and all these like minions that work for her and all this, weird stuff that they've been doing. Like hags could be like liches, as far as the power of a villain. Only, the problem is if they ever get into a situation where the party faces a hag and the party's, a decent level at all, they're just going to kill her. My group was 4th level and beat Nanny Poo Poo. Now, she had done a lot of bad stuff to him. It was a very memorable fight. A lot of negotiation. She almost killed one of the characters outright. She had a lot of stuff to offer and a lot of stuff to threaten them with. But in the end, they still, fought her and beat her. But that idea of thinking about a battle, thinking about an adventure and a session, regardless of combat, and also I tend to take it like thinking of it regardless of the characters. So you definitely want to focus on the characters so you can sort of draw on that, draw on their stories that they're bringing here. But when you're building a situation like this pirate thing, you kind of say like, it doesn't matter if they're there or not. This is the way the pirates are, right? That ship's coming in, prisoners are getting off. They probably just, they'd probably just sacked a ship. What's it called when one pirate ship destroys another? Sunk, right? So they sunk a merchant ship for Waterdeep and have prisoners on board. I create the scenario and then try to allow that to influence what combats occur. Yeah. I don't prepare monster phrases. I don't know that I am any good at it either. This is Frank Sapien. Sorry, I suck with names. Hi, Frank. I'm gonna go with Frank. I never much think about it. I mean, I ham it up, right? I don't, it's never super serious stuff. Sometimes it's serious stuff. And you kind of look at the intelligence of a monster, like a Yeth Hound is a good one, Yeth Hounds do not speak, but they understand Common, Elvish, and Sylvan. So, they can understand things, but they don't talk. But they probably bark and they talk to each other and they bay. So I think kind of looking at the intelligence of the monster, looking at what language it speaks, and then sort of playing with it. Darklings, right? So when they run into these Darklings, but I add wrong section. Vanderhobbs. Darklings speak Elvish and Sylvan, right? So that's kind of interesting. So they probably speak in Elvish, but it's sort of like this perverted twisting of Elvish. So I think go into the book and kind of seeing what language do they speak and where do they come from, and then sort of I just improvise. I don't really. If you're talking about like how they sound or what they say, and as far as what they say, it's often like, well, what would they say? Like, what's their? I mean, sometimes they might just be surprised, like they don't expect a group of people to show up, and sometimes they're like, well, ooh, we're going to be able to, kill you, new prisoners. We love it when the prisoners walk right up to the gate. So who knows what they're going to say. But I just improvise it, and maybe that's a terrible answer. Just do something, It might be an absolutely awful answer. I think getting, my big one is like getting into their heads. Like, what do they think, right? Like if you were a Darkling, I do this with every villain I have, if you're a, vampire pirate, what do you want? Right. And what are you seeking? And what are you going after? And how are you going to act when a bunch of adventurers show up at your ship? What are you going to be scared? Are you, what are you going to do? But kind of like put yourself into their shoes. That can be hard to do on the fly. And then on the fly, it doesn't matter too much. I just like, another philosophy I have is that sometimes we DMs think that we're like, we're writing Gone with the Wind, and the reality, or Dr. Zhivago. And the reality is our players really want Walker, Texas Ranger, right? If there's not a roundhouse kick to the face every 7 minutes, they're bored, So we don't really have to come up with too much, get too deep into it unless it really matters to the game. But if it's just, Darklings, then it's just Darklings. So I tend not to worry about it, but when I do, I'll put myself in their shoes and say, like, well, if I was this monster, what would I say? And boy, I say some stupid stuff, and my players will make fun of me when, like, they always are like, oh, you foolish mortal, you've come here. I'm going to just, I will devour your souls. And I'm like, really? Because like the last 7 people said the exact same thing. And you're like, that's kind of funny, right? Like, what, I don't have to be the funny one. It's perfectly fine for the players to be funny. And if you think about like the beginning, like Thor Ragnarok, I think is like my favorite Marvel movie. I love Black Panther. I love Thor Ragnarok. And I love like when Thor is talking to the Armageddon guy, the guy who's going to cause Ragnarok, right? The big fire demon, and the fire demon's like, "I will devour your soul," and Thor's like, "Hang on, I'm swinging the other way. Wait around till I come back," and that's fine. And Thor is the one with the funny line, like like the big fire demon's just a fire demon. The big dragon that chases him is just a big dragon. Thor is what's cool, right? And Thor are the characters and the players. So they get to be funny and with their dialogue, and I'll just, I'm working against them. I don't have to be the funny one. Just a thought. That's my thought. I don't know what anybody else has. So I have where the game starts. I have the scenes. I feel pretty good about that, right? So again, I've mentioned in previous things that what do we do prep for? Do we prep so that we have everything we need when we're running the game? Or do we prep to feel good about the game? And I think that the latter is much more why I prep. I prep in order to feel prepared. And if I feel, I have a fair bit of experience running games, so generally I know they're going to go well. Or I know they're going to go well enough, I'll say. Sometimes they don't go great. Do I have enough? Do I feel like I have enough, right? Do I feel confident enough to be able to run this game? So I'll look at kind of each of the sections. One thing I haven't done, I didn't really go over the characters. I wrote them down, but of course I copied and pasted them from my last document and I go over them. So I'm going to talk about them now. So Warren is that is Sublime Ferris. Sublime is a text editor. I have it on the Mac, but it's on Mac and PC. It is, I think it's free. It's freeware, shareware. You can download it and use it, but you really got to pay for it. I paid for it. And I love it. I use it for writing all my books. I use it for writing all my code. And I use it for writing up D&D notes. It deals with Markdown, which is how you can see like the double pound signs and stuff. That's all called Markdown. And I write all my stuff in that. I have the entire Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master book written in Markdown. Along with, I wrote the workbook in Pages. Apple Pages, just so I had something to format it in, because I'm going to format it. Warren is a gnome druid who wants to be the largest beast in the world. When he hits level 6, he'll be able to transform into CR3 beasts. So I could definitely, I think, dinosaur-wise, I want a great CR3. Is it CR3 or CR2? I can't remember. This is for, what are they called? I don't think it's CR3. It's got to be CR2. One-third level, right? This is for a Moon Druid. So Deinonychus. I need other dinosaurs. Let's go over here. Dinosaur. Got the monster manual. CR2, thank you. I had a feeling it was CR2. So I'm gonna make sure that he sees Allosaurus. That's pretty good, right? That's large. Big large lizard. Is there any other Plesiosaurus can swim. Triceratops is too big. T-Rex is too big. He really wants to be a T-Rex, but I don't think we're going to get there. Yeah. So, Allosaurus is a good one. And he has seen an Allosaurus. So, that's not a good one. Yeah, it's not a bad one. I don't know if that's actually the best monster to transform into, though. It gets one attack. That kind of sucks. I mean, 15 damage isn't bad, but man, I don't know. Seems like transforming into a smaller beast is better if he had hit points. Anyway, he lets to turn into big ones. We have Huit Zeline. He is a human paladin of Ubtao. So I think sort of the, you know, uh, he can kind of connect with any Chultan prisoners and sort of bring Ubtao's light to the darkness of these vampires. Paladins hate vampires, but he'll be happy to hit a vampire. Any experience advice for using a checklist for non-D&D fantasy games process of prepping a game which lets players be Sherlock Holmes and investigate a murder in Victorian London. The game is by design not about monsters and treasure. Grondlar, I think, so the Secrets and Clues, Secrets and Clues, this section alone is why I'm rewriting Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. It is such a powerful tool that I was like, and it's missing from the original book, that I said, I really want to have more on this. And it is the hardest part of prep, and I think very valuable. And I believe is perfect for investigatory games, like a Sherlock Holmes game, right? A murder investigation. Because you can sort of write out all of the potential clues that exist, including like who it is and how it happened and what they used, and each secret is a clue, right? And you don't have to necessarily say where they find the clue. All you need is the clue, and then as they're investigating things, you can ad lib what they'll find, which clue they'll find at what point. And the nice thing is you can control the pacing. The pounce is the main jam, huh? The outsource move 30 feet straight ahead and hits with the claw attack on the same turn. Target must succeed in DC 13 to be knocked prone. If the target is prone, the outsource can make one bite attack against it as a bonus action. Okay, so like run, drive-by attacks. And it can move, 60 feet. It is fast. That is a large, fast beast. What does an Allosaurus look like? Do they look like Tyrannosaurus Rexes? Yeah, they look like a T-Rex. All right, I have some dinosaur miniatures. I will bring one. I'm gonna get that ready as soon as we're done chatting here. Yeah, so Gondolar. So that idea of like, I when I run a D&D game, I write down 10 secrets. Right, I've only got 5 right now. I need to add 5 more, and the 10 secrets are all clues that can be discovered anywhere. Right, like I always think of them like maybe they run into an NPC who tells them this stuff. Maybe they're looking at a wall and they see an ancient scripture that tells it to them, after an investigation check or whatever. Maybe it's etched on the blade of a sword that they find. Maybe they have a dream and it comes to them in a dream. I mean, it could come to them in any way, right? Smaller T-Rex with frills. So, to me, the power of a secret is that they're small, right? They're only like a sentence. Like you can fit them in an old tweet. You can fit them, back when tweets were small, you could fit them into a tweet. And they were abstracted from the location where you found them. Players did not have to go to one place to get a secret. They could find that secret in numerous places. And many times you never use all of them, right? But you can dole them out exactly at the pace that you want, and you can give just the clues that sort of move things forward. And maybe they jump and they learn something really powerful, but maybe they, maybe they don't. So an example of how the secret worked out in the last session. Let me pull it up. I don't know if I can share them. It'd be kind of a pain. How did a secret play out in the last game? So I'm looking at old notes. Here we go. So in my last here, I'll paste these in the other window so you guys can see them. These are old secrets. These are secrets that I put down. Ubtao left Chulta to being disgruntled with his followers. So one problem is it's been 3 weeks since my last game, so I kind of forgot exactly how these came out. But I'm pretty sure that came out. A lot of these I didn't use, right? So I don't think I used that Ubtao. We didn't touch about Ubtao very much. We did touch on the trickster gods. Because they went into a cave. It was really kind of cool. They rappelled down the side of a cliff wall and into a cave of the Froghemoth trickster god and learned more about that. One character got a pair of really strong bracers, almost drowned. Like a big statue of the Froghemoth swallowed him, and then he had to break his way out using these gauntlets that he picked up. But he learned about the trickster gods and the fact that they're not real gods, but people worship them anyway. They didn't learn anything about Ras Nisi. They didn't learn about Asura coming to killing the 9 trickster gods or entombing their spirits in the tomb. So this is kind of funny. I'm looking at all these. Yeah, right. This is kind of funny, right? Only the last 2 are specific. The rest of these are all general. And boy, if anybody's, hopefully no spoilers. Hopefully no new character getting spoiled. They did learn that the captains were vampires, and they learned that they could walk during the day because of the storms, right? Both of those, and they could see the storms, and then they got attacked by a old foe who turned out to be a vampire. So that is how they discovered those secrets, right? But those are the main ones, and because they're so focused on the pirates now, these other sort of more general secrets never really came up, and that's fine. Like I don't need to burn through all 10. And what I try to do is come up with 10 every session, and I don't really look back at old ones. Like you asked what I'd use from last ones, and maybe this is a fallacy on my part, but I don't go back, right? I because the game evolves, those secrets could be, if they're important, they'll come back, right? If they're a big deal, I will remember them again, and if they're not, then they can fade away because nobody cared, and that's perfectly fine. So I could have like a bunch of secrets for like Mesro, and then they never go to Mesro. Or what's the? Yeah, I think it's Mesro, right? Yeah, Mesro, right? So Mesro is that city that sort of disappeared. Well, I got a lot of secrets about Mesro, but they're not going there. They're heading to the west. They're not going east. So Mesro, it doesn't matter. And that's the way the game works, right? That's fine. I don't have any problem with that. So I need 5 more secrets though before I'm done here. What other secrets? One of the prisoners is a spy for the Masked Lords. She so I just created a new character. Hey, let's find a random name for this character. Sorry for my switching around. When you see the screen jump like that, it's me doing screen jumps. Let's see, I don't need that anymore. So we will go to my names. Rihanna Gravehide. No, Rihanna's pretty good. Raina. I like that. And Hide isn't bad. Leafhide. Leafhide? Drakehide. Baldur's Gates. So there's a secret. In my game, I sometimes give out an important clue secret, for example, via an NPC side comment, and I can tell my players are like, whatever. Feels awkward to reinstate again later. Yeah, and that's okay. Like, I mean, so one thing that I think is I try to do, and everybody's game is different. So whatever I say, whatever I write, whatever I read, I'm real happy that people like it. But the fact is, everybody's game is different. So what works for them and what works for me, that's why I do all these like statistical studies, is because I'm not so sure that my opinion matters, and I'd really rather see kind of how everybody does it, and then see where the common areas, the successful areas are. But our players kind of come with their desires and expectations for the game, and that may be very different than ours. Like I know I spend tremendous amounts of time thinking about D&D, and my many of my players, the only time they're really thinking about D&D is when they show up. and that's fine. They love playing, and they love playing at that time, or they wouldn't have been showing up all this time. But they're not like sitting at home writing notes or drawing maps out. Or sometimes, like on wonderful and rare occasions, they will write up notes between sessions or say like, here are all the NPCs we found. A couple of my players do that, and that's wonderful. But that's not even an expectation. So the fact that I'll throw a clue out and they don't bite on it, maybe my clues are too, um, subtle, and that's okay, right? Like then I just drive it forward. I'll make it clear, like, okay, you got you're heading to Omu to stop the death curse, right? There's something in Omu. Sometimes they get really into the details, but sometimes they don't. If they don't bite on a detail, it's okay. Everything that isn't in the point of view of the character is ethereal and can just disappear, you know. Um, so I don't have any problem when clues don't really resonate, and it also might be that that's just not very interesting. Like, oh, I want to tell them all about Dragonspear Castle, the 500-year history of Dragon. They're like, we don't care about Dragonspear Castle. We don't care about its 500-year history. We want to get through that portal and get the hell out of here. You're like, okay, it's too bad. It's cool. I think it's cool, but they don't care. So the nice thing is, because secrets are relatively ethereal and they're small, we're not burning a lot of time. I'm not writing, 5,000 words about Dragonspear Castle. I'm writing a sentence, and if they don't use that sentence, perfect. Do I have a table of things that can trigger secrets? NPCs, ancient books, inscriptions on the walls. I have my fantastic, let's see. I have my fantastic locations thing. So I have a bunch of random tables. Like Chult monuments, right? This is one that I put up, the other one. Ancient necrotic tree of Wango the Sioux monster, right? These are things that the characters might run into while they're exploring, and I'll definitely tie clues to these. You can also tie clues to random items, so if they find an item, it might be an item that was carried around by members of the Flaming Fist. It could be really interesting stuff. And have problems with your players forgetting important details. If it's really an important detail, I'll just remind them. Last time you met, you had talked to so and so, and they told you that you should go to Omu and stop the death curse. Like, you can reinforce it with them, particularly if they're not dealing with it. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they have it written down, and you want them to do a little bit of like, what was happening? Like, I don't know. What do you think happened? Like, oh, was it that thing with that guy? And then they kind of noodle it through, and that's fun. But other times, if you need to tell them, you just tell them. One of the things I do, Talax has the idea of bringing up at the beginning of the session, sort of recapping what happened. That works. I also will ask the players to recap it. That's a big one for me. Is, hey, what do you guys, who wants to talk about? I have a few different sayings in my game, and one of them is, who wants to talk about last week's game? What happened? Who would like to describe what happened in last week's game? And then the players will kind of work together. 9 times out of 10, they talk about what their character did. Oh man, I smoked that demon undead guy for 90 points of damage. And like, yeah. What else happened? And then they usually noodle it through. And there's usually one player at the table who's like the story person, who's like, oh, well, we started off by going here, and then we went there, and then we went there. And then you can kind of fill in the details. Yeah, and you remember, like, oh yeah, you remember there was that guy, and he was like he was like a ghoul. And I'm like, it wasn't a ghoul, he was a vampire. Oh, that's right, he was a vampire. So, so I'll do that kind of thing. I have to hammer out my remaining 4 secrets. So what other secrets can they learn on this boat? What's her name? The woman that runs Fort Beloarian. She didn't know the pirates are vampires. I'll give her some. They were just paying her off, and it worked well. my party are actually members of the Flaming Fist. So the idea that they can sort of exonerate the Flaming Fist. Another NPC. Let's go for my random names again. Like Lion Bright. That's a great name. Jagger. So I added a couple more about, exactly what the scope is of the Flaming Fist in this, and the idea that, the spy might be saying, like, all the Flaming Fists are a bunch of jerks and Baldur's Gate is in on the pirate thing. And then the Flaming Fist will say, no, it was actually just Liana Porter at just the other one. And the party, I think, has evidence of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Need 2 more. 2 other secrets. So what other secrets? Pirate spies have seen serpent people at Omu. Pirates saw an airship crash in the jungles, but haven't yet reached it. So that's the Stargaze or Starfall, whatever. There's an airship there. That's another little fun clue. Treasure. What might they acquire? So, again, I'm kind of looking at the character. So Warren, you guys can help me with this. What magic items are good for a? That's a good idea. Treasure map. What magic items are good for a Circle of the Moon Druid? What do Circle of the Moon Druids want? Wheat Celine, I think. I think he's okay. I wouldn't mind like a breastplate. A +2 breastplate would be pretty sweet. Let's use ye old my magic item generator here. Maybe half plate, right? Set a +1 half plate. Get my D10s out here so I can roll some percentile dice. Oh, I don't need this percentile dice. All right, so it is a ancient astral breast half plate. Ancient Shadowfellion. That'd be kind of nice. And the vampire, the lead guy, could be wearing a suit of. Is there any kind of shadow armor? Is that a? Where did I see shadow armor before? I thought for sure I saw shadow armor somewhere. I'm kind of surprised that Wizards of the Coast hasn't put more magic items out. They've got monsters, they've got new player options. I'm surprised Xanathar's guide didn't have something. Let me just go to the compendium. Let's go to rules, go to Dungeon Master's Guide. And treasure, magic items. Adamantine armor. So armor of resistance. Not a lot of armors, are there? So we're going to have shadowy half plate, ancient. Ancient Shadowfell half plate armor. And do I give out magic items? Not all the time. Sometimes they miss them. But usually like one item per session, given that I level them like every other session or so. It doesn't seem I actually give probably a fair bit of magic items out. I don't and because the magic items aren't really that big a deal, is we're just gonna make this +1 for the low level. What spell can this cast once a day? What's a cool? Is there a I want a warlock spell. I think warlock spell would be cool. That it can do once a day. I like one of the things I love to do is add a single spell to a piece of armor. Yeah, darkness is obvious. Sorry, I'm not trying to be a dick. Yeah, darkness I had in mind. But yeah, something that would be. What does armor of Agathis do? Armor of Agathis is pretty great. I think we're going to go with Armor of Agathis. Arms of Hadar. Yeah, I didn't want to make it offensive. I was thinking because it's armor, I thought a defensive armor would be nice. So the idea that it's like this ancient Shadowfell armor, and then boom, and it just builds a sort of frost shield, and you gain 5 temporary hit points, and it does 5 damage to people who hit you. It's great tank armor. So I like that. Is there any other magic item? That's probably a pretty good one. And who could use that? So we have 2 characters that could use it. We have a Kenku samurai and we have a Cholton paladin. So either of them could use it. So yeah. So I think that's where we are. It is 11:08. I have to go get my junk together for my game. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys very much for coming. Thank you for all the wonderful discussion in chat. I appreciate it. You guys are going to help make my game awesome. I hope the steps are useful. And if you guys have any questions, throw them in Twitter. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. So I'll be happy to talk to you there. And you guys all have a wonderful day. Talk to you later.